Hello and welcome to Game Highlighter. My name is Joshua and I would like to welcome you to the very first episode. The first thing we're going to tackle is why are game passwords so long? And if you've paid attention to the Angry Video Game Nerd, you've seen any of his videos in the past 10 years he's been doing it. Even in his theme song he asks, why is the password so long? Well, I have an answer just for you, James. So hopefully you watch this. Well, first, we're going to look at two games with very short, sweet passwords. And then we're going to look at a game with a complicated password. And then we're going to look at a game with a long, complicated password. And then we're going to go over a save file and how Action Replay works just to round up all of our bases. So, without further ado, here it is, and I hope you enjoy this episode. So the first game will be Zombies Ate My Neighbors. This is a game I highly recommend, and I think everyone should play this game. So let's see what happens when I start the game. First I choose a character, and then bam! Stage 1, title screen, and we're in the game. Of course this is what you expect to happen. Next let's use a password. As I mentioned before, we are looking at short password games first. This one is extremely short with just 5 letters to remember. So here's a password and we're loading the game. Bam! We're at the bonus stage. And we're in the game. Notice anything about the game? It's hard to notice right now, but I'm trying to cycle through the weapons. If you notice, it isn't letting me cycle through the weapons. To make sure that this isn't just the thing that the bonus stage does, let's try another password. And we're entering the password. Okay, trying to cycle through the weapons, and there aren't any other weapons. Would you look at that? Like, we're kind of screwed. So, to explain that, with Zombies Ate My Neighbors, weapons are super important. Your starter water gun is only effective against zombies and not any other monsters. Also, there are 10 people to save no matter how many you had left to save when you got the password. The way Zombies Ate My Neighbors works is you save your neighbors from being eaten by monsters. You use various weapons to fight the monsters and save your neighbors. Once you get all 10, you can leave. If any are eaten, then in the next level you lose that neighbor for good. And if you lose over half your neighbors in one stage, it's game over. So if you lose 4 neighbors on the first stage, you have 6, and then on until you lose more. So while you start without any weapons or items, you get all 10 neighbors on any password you use. This is basically a new game at higher levels. The passwords are kind of useless unless you're really good at this game, and I really don't recommend using them personally. The next game we're going to look at is Boogerman, a pick and flick adventure. A game that I liked as a kid, but no one else really did. I don't know why. So let's load the game without using a password and skip through this title. Alright, so with the Flatulent Swamps, level 1, we're thrown in. And as you see, I'm picking my boogers. That's how you play the game. But as you see, it's a simple platformer without much inventory. There are 2 meters. There's the booger meter, and then there's the gas meter at the top right. You use the gas meter by charging burps and charging farts. You lose the booger meter as you flick your boogers. You can get upgrades to upgrade these, you see, and you get a score. Now, let's enter a password. As you will notice, the password screen is kind of unique in this one. As you see, the password system is unique in this one, as I just said. You scroll through the monsters in the game, which made this really hard when looking up passwords online. Like, what qualifies as the booger monster? What qualifies as this monster? It was really annoying. I spent some time cycling through passwords, just forget it. But as you notice, we load a new stage. We're at this new stage. We don't have any chili peppers. We have no score. We have nothing. It's just like a new game. No score, no upgrades, no extra meters, no chili peppers, no nothing. You kind of see a running theme with short passwords, don't you? Well, we'll discuss that later. On to our first long password game. Well, it's less a long password, a more complicated password system. We're playing Mega Man 5 here. Why 5? Because it's the one that I happen to own on the Wii. So let's go straight to the password field. And what are we looking at? Well, after some quick Googling, I found a password. Let's use it. Okay. Now that the password is entered, let's see what it does. Well, it beat a boss. It beat a boss for us, and it gave us the beat superpower. Also, in case you haven't noticed, I'm bad at Mega Man. Love the games, but I need to get better. We'll cover the unique password that is Mega Man and Mega Man 5 and all those later, but next, on to the bane of the angry video game nerd and most gamers, the long, complicated passwords, and I have a doozy. Now, this is the game that basically spawned the idea of this episode for me. It's Beavis and Butthead on the Sega Genesis. Some of you might already know, the angry video game nerd did an extensive coverage over it. I happen to have a weak spot for this game, and I happen to love Gwar. 2 and 2. So let's load the game and look at the Gwar ticket. Notice how the top of the screen, top of the Gwar ticket screen, it has a password. Looks pretty complicated. Well, once I can get this to work, Jesus, these controls are terrible. I don't know how I did this as a kid, but we're gonna enter a password, and all right, we're gonna enter this long password. I'm using Google, obviously. There we go. So, however, if you'll notice, it has uppercase, lowercase numbers, and even 2 symbols. Once we enter the password, you'll notice one thing right away. Beavis is almost dead, and we have 1 piece of the Gwar ticket. Why is this, you wonder? Well, let's get on to the main reason. Well, the main reason you're watching this episode. First, I want to go over the short passwords. As I pointed out, it brought us to the respective levels, and we didn't start with any items, upgrade, weapons, or points. It was like we were starting a new game, just at a later level. Well, that's exactly what is happening when you're using a short password. Since these are short passwords, they are one the developers themselves made to bring you to a specific level. Due to this, the developers couldn't tell what items you would have, how many points you would have, what upgrades you would have, anything like that. So they just started you as a new player to the level and meant to go to. These are pre-programmed, and every playthrough you'll get the same password no matter how poorly or well you're doing. And if you want a game with really short passwords, look at Echo Jr. 3 letters. Now, let's discuss the Mega Man 5 password system. The Mega Man 5 password system is a neat dot matrix, which allows for nice complicated passwords to let us know which bosses we have beaten, which power-ups we have. This is also a pre-programmed password. You get the same password through each play. However, unlike the previous 2 passwords used in Boogerman and Zombies Ate My Neighbors, these are programmed with items we have in mind. However, it doesn't keep the energy loss, health loss, how many lives you have, or anything like that. It's complicated, but it's also put in by the developers to track your semi-unique playthrough. Finally, we have the long, complicated password of Beavis and Butthead. This is not a pre-programmed password. This password is actually generated by the consoles. If you noticed in the playthrough, when I used the password for the Gwar ticket, at the top, it even gave a different password than the one that I entered. This is because it's programmed by the console. The developers had no clue which stage you would beat, how much health you would have, what items you would have, or how many Gwar tickets you'd have. So they programmed the console to generate a fully unique password to your playthrough. Why would they do this? Well, they had a complicated game and needed you to have all of your stats and items. This is the same for games like Highlight and Metal Gear on the NES. The developers made these huge games and had no idea where you'd be in the story, so the console generates a unique password to bring you back to where you were. While gamers may not like these long passwords, they're nice. So, why are the passwords so long? Well, each character is actually overwriting a piece of memory. The way it works is when you put in a character for the password, it is then converted to the system's machine language, whatever that may be, and it's slowly overwriting memory of where to load the game from. So an uppercase X you're putting in for a password is writing a different set of machine code than the lowercase x you could have chosen. Sure, the developer could have used short passwords like in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but they wouldn't have allowed for unique playthroughs. Those passwords aren't writing machine code. In fact, they're simply reading the string of characters and going, yeah, that's a password alright, and then starting the game at that stage. Sure, they could have used battery backups, but some of these games were made like Hideline before that was even an idea. Now let us look at a save file. The save file we're going to look at is Mario Galaxy. Notice how the save file sort of looks like the Mega Man 5 .matrix system? Well, that's not accidental. So the way the save file works is it is loading your unique machine code to load your file. It's saving your stars, your levels, your characters unlocked, your guys, how much, and much more. In a game like Silent Hill, it is saving how many steps you made while walking, how often you used the light, all that information you wouldn't think to track that counts against you for your final score. It's doing the exact same thing when you play Metal Gear, Highlight, and Beavis and Butthead are doing. However, instead of giving you the machine code to enter in, it's saving the code to the save file for your memory card. Since it isn't giving the code to the player, they can be as long as they need, allowing for much more unique playthroughs. Finally, we'll look at Action Replay, Game Shark, and Game Genie. I'll be using Action Replay for the GameCube. And, disclaimer, apparently Action Replay for the GameCube doesn't let you do custom passwords. I'm too lazy to track down another one. I really just needed this to play imported GameCube games, and I figured two birds, one stone. Didn't work. So the reason Action Replays usually come with their unique memory cards is to prevent your memory card from being corrupted. Back in the days of carts, you would just slide the Game Genie in your console and then put the game on top, and unless that game could save, if that game could save, Game Genie would forever corrupt the game. Why would they corrupt normal memory cards and cartridges that could save? Well, the way these hacks work is by going through and hacking the game data. So to turn on flying, unlimited lives, or anything else, they would go through the game binaries and change specific lines to unlock power-ups. If saved, they would corrupt the device because it would try to load it like normal, but it couldn't since that piece of memory was overwritten for good, rather than temporarily like passwords would do. Also, consoles that have memory cards would sometimes cause a hacking trick called a buffer overflow. Since it causes a buffer overflow, the regular memory card couldn't be read until the hacks were removed. Also, the buffer overflow of a memory card would allow for hacking the console as well. See the original Twilight Princess hack for the Wii. Now, a fun thing about these game modding devices is even though there are bad passwords preloaded or in the booklet, you can create your own password if it allows for it. If you know the lines of codes to overwrite, you can create a new password. With later versions of game modding device, you could put in your own hex hacks to try to create codes, like look at Gecko codes for the Wii. It's a fun thing to try out. It's basically the same thing as going through your Mario Galaxy save file, editing the lines until you create a save file you're looking for. That's the way game trainers, as they're called, work. You download one for a game you like, it overwrites that specific line in your save file to hack and giving you what you want. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Game Highlights. I hope you learned a lot. You know, we looked at some short games, long games. We've looked at unique passwords like Mega Man 5, which honestly, until I did this episode, I didn't even know Mega Man had a password system. Someone just recommended it to me when I mentioned I was doing an episode, and I was like, oh shit, it has a password. Well, I hope you look forward to future content in this channel. I mean, in the next, we'll be reviewing something. Ooh, wonder what it'll be. It'll be a series. We'll kind of cover the 3 games in the series. And if you're interested in the PlayStation 1 Classic, you might want to check it out because one of the games will be on there. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you have a good day.